How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Marvel Movies Podcast. I'm pretty sure this is episode 4, and today we're going to be going over Spider-Man 2, which right off the bat, I fucking hate this movie. So, I am once again joined by Ethan, and today we're going to be going over like one positive and then everything else that is completely wrong with this movie. So introduce yourself, say hi.
Hello. I'm here again.
Yes, and you'll be here for pretty much every other episode. So yeah.
Woo!
Yeah. So I said my opinion on this movie already. Ethan, what is your opinion?
Well, honestly, while I was watching it, I kept forgetting most of it. It was just a not memorable movie, if I'm being honest. Like, once we finished it, I'm like getting ready to take notes, and I'm like, wait, what happened in this movie? I don't even know. So,
Yeah.
I don't think it's as great as everyone says it is.
No. And that's something that I'm definitely gonna title this episode to, because like we described last week when we were talking about X-Men 2, we said that this movie is one that a lot of people claim is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, comic book movie of all time. And, like, I do not understand how anybody can think that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I honestly do believe that the first and third ones are the best, but
Mm-hmm.
this one just honestly, I'm gonna have to rate it just above the first X-Men. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if I can't remember the movie, you didn't do a good job.
Yeah. And again, we legit, guys, we just finished watching it maybe like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And like, don't remember most of it. And like once again, like Ethan said, once it ended, we started writing shit down. What happened? What's going on? It's just like very disappointing, I gotta say. And I
Yeah.
knew going into it that it wasn't, because I remember watching it and not liking it. Like, I've never liked this movie, even when I was a kid. So it's not just like recency bias, like, oh yeah, I've seen many things, so it's a lot better. It's like, no, even when I was a kid, I didn't like this one. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, just not the best one.
Yeah, definitely not.
And not a fan. All right, so we might as well start off. Directed by the same guy, Sam Raimi. So another reason why I don't understand, because the first one again wasn't great, but it's still at least it was entertaining to watch.
Yep.
Um, Came out in 2004, so 2 years after the first movie. And in this movie, they also say it's been 2 years since he's been Spider-Man, so that works.
Mhm.
But yeah. So everyone says this is great, and let's get into why it's not. All right, but first off, we're going to start off with our positives, of course, and we really don't have many. The first positive that I have is, of course, how funny this movie still is. Like,
Yeah.
this movie is definitely a lot funnier than the first one, and hey, he stole that guy's pizza. like, bruh, like pizza time. Like everything in this movie is so funny.
Yeah.
And the biggest positive is J. Jonah Jameson, of course.
Yeah, that's literally the only positive I have written down. Like,
Yeah.
I think he just holds the movie together. Without him, it would just fall apart.
Yeah. Like, he's surprisingly, like, a big part of the plot.
Yeah. He just,
Like, his son is with MJ, and so, like, he's just integral to, like, everything happening. And he has a lot more scenes in this movie compared to the first one, so he's, like, in it since from, like, the first few minutes, which is like, oh, thank God. But he's also not in it enough, so it's at that
Yeah.
point where you're just like, oh, boy. Wish you were in it more, man.
Yeah.
You'd make this movie great.
it's just his random appearances and then the so much energy he brings to it. He just honestly ties it all together. But yeah,
Yeah.
if he was in it more, I would enjoy it much more. But
Yeah.
you know,
It's like, it's like, damn, I really wish You were in it
Yeah.
more, so I don't know. So yeah, that's your only positive. Cool.
Yeah.
I have one more, and that is the train scene. I
Oh,
think
yeah,
is
yeah.
really good.
Definitely.
Um, yeah, like the fighting. There's not a lot of fighting again, which sucks. We'll get into that later. But the big fight of the movie is when Spider-Man and Doc Ock fight on the train. That scene is really good.
Yes.
It has no right being in this movie. It's really good.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad that it feels out of place in the movie, but
Hmm.
it, I guess, it's showing his redemption. Honestly, I think this movie is his redemption movie, even though he falls off in the beginning of the movie, then he has this talk with, I don't even remember who, that's how that movie went, so, on, it's I don't think they played his redemption very well since you can't remember it, but
No. Hmm.
there's so much I think they tried to put in here and it just
Yeah.
didn't. They couldn't get it to fit all together, so that's kind of why it feels out of
Nope.
place. And I wish there was more action where, he's saving more people instead of this being his one huge heroic moment where he's not saving someone who's like close to him, like Aunt May or MJ. Like
Hmm.
he's actually saving the city instead of
Yeah.
just it shows more Spider-Man essence in this scene than all the others.
Yeah, and I agree that's what makes this feel like a Spider-Man movie. Like that's, in my opinion, the only part where like it feels like a Spider-Man
Yeah.
movie. So it kind of chew. Bless me. Sorry. But yeah, like again, I will get to like the Peter Parker part because this is a Peter Parker movie. This isn't a
Yeah.
Spider-Man movie. But like for Spider-Man, that was like the only scene that felt like Spider-Man. And like when he was fighting Doc Ock, their fight was cool. When he saved the train, that was cool.
Hmm.
Immediately after, it's not cool, but everything else in
Yeah.
that scene in particular, like if I ever, for some reason, had a desire to watch this again, I would just skip to that part, or just look it up on YouTube and stuff. That's the only thing I would really ever want to rewatch about this movie.
Yeah.
So, it sucks.
All right.
But yeah.
Well, if that's all the positives for this movie, I'll
Yeah.
start on some mixed. It was
Cool.
honestly funny when Aunt May gets taken from the bank and she's
Yeah.
somehow stronger than Peter is. Like, she
Yeah.
kicks the shit out of him. And it's so funny. He's like, "Oh, thanks for the help." And she's like, "We? We did?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"No, you did it. You did
Yeah,
all
yep.
of that. Peter didn't help one bit."
Nope.
But it was just strange to see the power balance in this movie. And I mean, I get it. I guess they're trying to show that he's like, oh, he's losing his strength. He's going back to old Peter. But no, it's just Aunt May got stronger and fucking destroys
Yeah.
this man.
Yeah, she got bit by the spider in this movie.
Yeah.
uh, I don't know. It is really weird, the power inconsistencies. And
Yeah.
most people who watch my channel, they're definitely Dragon Ball fans, so they know power scaling.
Yeah.
And I'm not a power scaler. I hate power scaling because it's just not fun to me.
Mhm.
But sometimes, like, you notice stuff like that, and especially in this movie, like you said, like when Spider-Man is punching Doc Ock, it's like, okay, Doc Ock, besides the arms, is just a normal fucking guy.
Yeah.
So if Spider-Man punched him, you'd think that would just knock him out instantly. And again, it would knock him out. The arms would probably still attack him. But the fact that he punches him many times and like headbutts him a few times,
Yeah.
and Doc Ock still is like, oh, I'll just brush it off. It's like, dude, you're a normal guy. Like, there's no way you should be taking these
Yeah.
hits from Spider-Man.
And that was
I don't know.
also
So, like,
something that I didn't really understand was how the arms worked. Like, I think in the comics they explain it, but I'm not big comic nerd, so I haven't
Yeah.
read most, like, any Spider-Man stuff. So
Mhm.
when they explained it, they kind of just glossed over the fact that they have artificial intelligence, and then that they can just
Yeah.
move on their own, and
Mhm.
like take over his mind. Like I didn't know
Yeah.
how that like how does that work? And
Mhm.
but he's like, no, I can control them with this chip. Yep, and it didn't really
Sure you
make
can.
sense. I mean,
Mhm.
they could definitely explain that more and much better,
Mm.
but yeah, I feel like they just really glossed over that fact just to get on with the scene. So, which that scene was also not too good because it's just Harry
No.
whining about being saved,
Oh my
and
god.
then Peter struggling to pull plugs out of a wall. Which
Yeah, that was
I'm
funny.
watching that scene and I'm looking at the plugs and they're not even moving. He's just literally ripping the
No.
whole wall off. Like
Yeah.
it's another scene that just doesn't make sense. Like,
No.
oh, I don't want to shut it off. I can't shut it off. But this whole time, like
You could.
he literally got his wife killed because of it,
Yep.
and I it's an interesting thing to see because then it shows that he's pretty much the same person throughout the rest of the movie, and the inhibitor chip hasn't even been destroyed yet.
Yep.
So it really kind of just shows that he hasn't really changed this whole movie. He was just
No.
always like that. But
Yeah. Um I know that in the comics, again, I'm like you.
mhm.
I don't read comics. I really don't know much, but from what I've seen, I'm pretty sure that it's not artificial intelligence. Like I think he just controls the arms and he was just always evil. Like
Really,
I'm pretty sure, yeah. Like I'm pretty sure they changed it where like he's a good guy without it and stuff.
mm,
Um but again, like you just said, he's not really a good guy. He's kind of an asshole.
yeah,
So it's at that point like that's the thing like a lot of people love about this movie, and this is a mixed for me too, like Doc Ock in general.
yeah,
Um Alfred Molina, again, great acting job.
hmm,
He's a great actor, does a nice job with the role.
yeah,
But the character itself is just really freaking weird and confusing, like you said.
yeah,
Like, he seems like a good guy. He talks to Peter. They have a nice conversation, like with his wife and shit. And they're like, "Oh yeah, you have a girlfriend?" Kinda. No, just say no. You don't. Spider-Man, you don't. You don't have a girlfriend. But it's like sometimes he's an asshole. Like when he grabbed Peter right before he went to steal MJ. Like he's like, "Oh yeah, I will skin this chick if you don't get me
yeah,
Spider-Man." And I'm like, "Bro, is that the arms talking or is that you?" Like it's really confusing because future spoilers, I guess. No Way Home when he shows up, it seems like they changed him a little bit where like it seemed like he was really being controlled by the arms.
yeah,
So like it was like, oh, that's why he's cranky because he has the arms on, so that's why he's evil.
yeah,
But in this one, like, it really doesn't. It feels like the arms are just telling him what to do, and he's just like listening. Like they don't seem to be controlling him. It's just like they're like, hey, you should do this, and he's like, yeah, I should do that. You're right.
yeah.
So
Because
it's like,
in that scene where, like at the end, where he's deciding to shut it off, he
mm,
he listens to them when he's like, "No, we can't shut it off." He's having a kind of a power struggle with
mm,
himself. He's like, listen, he's like, he wants to keep it going, but he also wants to shut it off and save everyone. And then
mm.
in the end, he does save everyone, but you can tell he's like he doesn't want to do it.
Yeah.
But
And
it's
like, I will not die a monster.
yeah, it's weird to see the way he thinks in this movie. It's not consistent.
No.
So
Um, and another thing too, he's not even in this movie that much. Like,
yeah,
there's a big chunk of time where he wasn't there.
I had that. I had that written down. Like he's not in the movie for
Mm.
like a whole 30 minutes. And when he showed up again, I'm like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, he's in this movie.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
It's like, oh shit.
yeah.
uh,
They just again, well, not again. What I was gonna say is like I feel like this movie is just them trying to push wisdom into the movie. There's so many
Yeah.
like lines where it's just that everyone giving Peter advice, and that I feel like that takes up like half the movie, and you don't even remember half of it because they put so much in there that it just is meaningless at that point. So I think this whole movie was just trying to push wisdom and not focus on him fighting, Doc Ock, and it even took away from his struggle of him trying to balance Spider-Man in his normal life.
Mhm.
Which I found
I get
weird because that's what the wisdom should be doing, like adding to that, but it's
Yeah.
kind of just taking away from it.
Yeah, I get that. Like, and the wisdom in this movie too, not good. None of it's good.
No.
Everything that they say is just fucked up. It's like, I'm sorry, you guys are all giving awful advice. Like, please
Yeah.
stop talking to me.
Like the scene where Aunt May's moving out, and that was like right after Peter's like, "Oh, I'm the reason Uncle Ben got killed." She got over that
Yeah.
way too easily. And then she
Yeah,
goes
I
into
know.
this all like, "Oh, Spider-Man shouldn't have his own life. He should just be Spider-Man." That's literally what the advice was. Give up your
Yep,
dreams
which is
and
like,
help everyone
oh.
else. Don't help yourself. That-
Yep, and that was the thing that came full circle at the end with Doc Ock too.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, just stop focusing on yourself. Be, and you said it best, so you can say it.
Yeah, it's just literally it's just focus on everyone else and forget about your own dreams.
Yep.
Like, you don't matter. You have to help everyone else.
Yep.
Like,
Mm.
it's the worst
Yep, that
advice in this movie.
message. Yep.
And it's sad that
I
it's
really don't
the takeaway.
understand. Yeah, really. It's like, this is what you're trying to push out to your audience, is that you need to do better for humanity and not for yourself.
Yeah.
And again, slippery slope. I do understand what they're trying to go for to a degree, but at the same time, it's like, okay, sure, don't be selfish. You shouldn't be like a selfish person.
Yeah.
Because like when Peter does his stuff later, he's selfish. Like again, he sees a guy getting beat up in the alley, screaming for help.
Yeah.
Dude just fucking walks away.
Yeah.
And it's like, Jesus. So like, I think they're trying to be like, don't be like that. And I get it. But it's like, okay, but you also need to strive to do things that you need to do to make your life better.
Yeah.
Because Spider-Man's life in this movie sucked. So it's like, yeah, you need to do better. But just giving up on everything you need to do to just be what everyone else wants you to be, it's like, oh, that's a awful message. Like, that's a terrible message there. Like, they didn't convey that whatsoever.
Yeah.
So.
And with his struggle, I think they definitely had the right idea to do that, but they didn't execute it very well. Like, Spider-Man's whole thing is that he's this friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He has to balance his Spider-Man life with his normal life, and he doesn't make a lot of money because he's balancing these like dead-end jobs to still have time to be Spider-Man. He can't like settle down on a career or anything because he doesn't have the time or the focus to do it. So when I think they definitely did the rent thing amazing. I loved him just popping up, "Where's my rent?" So I think they did that right, at least, showing how he can't like keep a job or follow his dreams the way he wants to. But I feel like they might have focused too heavy on that instead of like the main storyline of the whole movie is Doc Ock like trying to create the power of the sun in the palm of his hand, and then he's not in there for half the movie, and they're just focusing on Peter's struggle to just live. And also, I think one of the main story driving points of this movie, which it shouldn't have been, is MJ, who is still the worst MJ ever.
Yep.
Like her whole thing is, "Oh, I'm engaged, kiss me." Um, like
Oh
that
my
scene was
god,
so dumb.
slut. Yep.
I,
Uh,
like I think they're trying to put too many things in there. Like I think they're trying to do it's a superhero story, it's a love story, it's a life struggle story. They're trying to do
yeah,
way too many
exactly.
things, and they can't
Mm-hmm.
figure it out. I don't think
Nope. Nope.
so. It just doesn't. It's not balanced, right?
Definitely not. Something that I think is interesting is that I haven't seen Iron Man 2 in a while,
Hmm.
but I remember everyone's big complaint with that is like they're trying to balance too many things and they do a bad job with it.
Yeah.
And so most people, for some reason, think that movie is one of the worst MCU ones. And I'm thinking like, dude, Iron Man 2 is basically just Spider-Man 2.
Hmm.
Because Spider-Man 2, like you said, is balancing so many things. And again, not to say that everyone who loves this movie is wrong, but like it's just like they do a lot of stuff in this movie that doesn't work at all. So it's just I think it's kind of weird when people like shit on Iron Man 2 and then praise this as one of the best comic book movies ever. It's like they're the same movie. Like all the complaints you have for this one is in this one. So
Yeah.
I
Honestly,
don't know.
I think where most people are coming from is it hits all the points of Spider-Man, like
Hmm.
his struggle, his love interest, all
Yeah.
that. But I
Hmm.
think they're just looking at, oh, they did that, but I guess
Yeah.
they didn't do it well. So I
Yeah.
think honestly they're just praising the plot points instead of the actual plot.
Yeah, like they're happy that the concept is in there,
Yeah,
but they for most people some reason like, oh, as long as like they mention it, then that's good. It's like no, dude, like they need to execute it well too.
yeah,
So again, that's just how we feel about it. Like I know again, Ethan and I we like storytelling a
yeah.
lot, so we write stories
Hmm.
a lot, both of us. So it's just like when we see a movie where like they get to like the bare essential of what it's trying to say, but it doesn't flesh it out any. It's just like, then what the hell was the point? It's like if they had focused, like the first one, not the best, but it focused a lot more on like the great power comes great responsibility concept.
Yeah,
And guess what? That was basically like the main theme of the movie. We didn't have a bunch of disjointed storylines converging. It was just, oh, Peter Parker trying to figure out Spider-Man while trying to defeat Green Goblin.
yeah,
And that was it.
yeah.
And in this one, there's so many. So,
Yeah, for me, honestly,
oh,
this movie just feels like the rough draft, which is,
yeah, that's a great way to describe it.
yeah, like there's definitely some things they could have taken out, put more of another thing in, and flesh that out more, and it would have been a great movie. But I think they just
Yep.
wrote the script, they looked it over once, and they're like, "Oh, this is perfect," and it is,
Yeah.
and then the result is just a rough draft of a movie,
Hmm.
which is really sad to see, because
Yeah, like, ugh.
because when we write stories, you have to go into it. You have to obviously you write the rough draft, then you go back, you write it again, and then again,
Yep.
and like see what
Hmm.
you can add to and what you have to take away from. And
Yeah.
it's very, yeah, it's a very complex process. And not to say
Hmm.
that they didn't do that. I just saying they didn't
No,
do it
it
very
just doesn't
well.
feel like they
Yeah,
did. Yeah. Which is like very disappointing
yeah,
because again, like the first one, again, like the plot not the greatest, but it feels like they put a lot of care and effort into it.
yeah,
And we said that last time we reviewed it. Like you could tell they put a lot of heart and soul into that
yeah,
first one. And in this one, not to say they didn't put that in this, but it feels I hate to say it, like a cash grab
yeah,
to a degree, where it's like it feels like they rushed it out. We're just like, okay, we need to put as many Spider-Man things in this movie as possible. Let's just put them in here
yeah,
and not flush it out. And if we put all this, then all the comic fans will be like, "Oh my god, this is amazing," and it's just like, it's not.
right,
This isn't a good movie.
yeah.
So it's just sad. And by the way, guys, we are deep into the negatives right now. We stopped at the mixed with Doc Ock. So we've been talking about negatives for a while.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Well, to move on to more looking into characters, I want to look at Harry in this movie because
Cool.
his like character in this movie definitely changed from the first one, where he was more. I think he was definitely more happy in the first one, and I get why they don't do that in this movie. I mean, like his dad died, obviously, so
Yeah.
and he wants to get revenge on Spider-Man, but like Spider-Man saves his life, and he's like, this doesn't change anything. Like,
Yeah, like
okay.
instantly, like fuck you.
Yeah, and then after Doc Ock's like the malfunction with the whatever it was, like his whole life just became, oh, kill Spider-Man. Like that's his whole character right now, which it takes away from, oh, it was his best friend, and now he just wants to. That's all he can talk about is, oh, I want to kill Spider-Man.
Yeah. Which is very weird.
Yeah, because he had this big character in the first movie where he actually had some interesting story points, and then this one again is just, oh, Spider-Man's the worst. That's his whole character, which is really sad to see.
Yeah, and something else that we noticed is that, hey, why aren't Harry and Peter living together anymore?
Oh yeah, that was. That was
It's like, what?
I mean, I guess
Why?
Harry moves into his dad's place, but he doesn't take Peter with him. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
It's like
This is so weird.
Harry gets all this money, and now he just leaves Peter, just leaves him to fend for himself. Which I get, I guess. Like, you can see it in this whole movie. Like, Harry's talking about, oh, you take pictures of Spider-Man. You must, you love him so much. So I guess that's where they could have split off. But again, they don't show it. So it's weird. And especially like at the beginning of the movie, like he goes to Aunt May's place, like, oh, maybe he lives there now. Like he walks in like he's just gonna go lay on his bed, and then he leaves. And it's just confusing.
Yeah, very. And like again, in the beginning of the movie, Harry was like, "Oh, hey, where you been, buddy? You haven't been returning my calls." So just from that interaction, you can tell that they don't hate each other yet.
Yeah.
And of course, Harry immediately goes into talking about like, oh, yeah, you still take pictures of Spider-Man. Please tell me who he is. So,
Yeah.
But I can't see that as a thing of Harry being like, okay, I'm gonna move in here, but I'm not gonna give you any money to stay here for some reason.
Yeah.
It's like. It's just weird because he doesn't have a giant hatred for him of Peter until he was like drunk at like that party.
Yeah.
And even that wasn't a hatred, it's just because he was drunk. Because at the end of the movie, he's like, oh no, I don't want to get revenge for you, Dad, for mirror psycho dad
Yeah.
in the mirror. Like, I don't want to get revenge.
Yeah, that was
So it's
also.
like, he doesn't hate Peter.
Yeah, that scene was also it was contradictory because this man literally is like, no, smashes the mirror, and he's like, oh, okay, I'll do it now.
Yeah.
Because he's like,
yeah.
it's just so weird. His character flip-flops so much, and
Very.
he doesn't have, like, I don't think they went too deep into his character, honestly. I think they just wanted to
Yeah.
show him turning against him and becoming the next Green Goblin,
Mhm.
which is just...
Like they don't feel like best friends
No.
at all. Like even in the first one, like they said they were best friends, but they barely had any scenes together.
Right.
And it was just like whatever. And in this one, like they really don't feel like best friends. So
Yeah, and then...
it's just so weird.
Yeah, and then moving on to MJ, she's like, "You're my best friend." I'm like, "Since when?
Mm-hmm.
When did this happen?"
Yeah, exactly. Like, Brett, no, you're not.
You got rejected at a funeral. 2 years have passed, and you're like, "Oh, you're my best friend. You don't come to any of my shows. You don't talk to me anymore, but
Yeah.
you're still my best friend." Which
Uh-huh.
is
It's like,
fucking
no,
stupid.
That's not how it works.
Yeah.
Because, like, even again, in the first one, like, they didn't talk that much. The only time they really had, like, a heart-to-heart was, like, when Aunt May was dying in the hospital. So,
Yeah.
it's just, like, in this one, it's like, I know that 2 years have passed, who knows, they might be talking. But from what they've told us in this movie, they don't talk that much, because Peter doesn't talk to anybody anymore, because he's too busy being Spider-Man, trying to balance his life. So, it is just like, so you're her best friend, but you're also Harry's best friend, and you don't talk to either of them, and they still like you. Why? So
Yeah.
it's just, I don't get it.
Yeah, and then like when she's like trying to get him to kiss him, she's like, "I've always loved you." I'm like, "No, you haven't. You
Shut
literally
the
just moved
fuck
on. You're gonna
up,
get
bro.
married. What the fuck are you
Yeah.
talking about?"
Oh my god, yeah.
Like,
So,
it's the worst
This movie's
MJ
making me mad, bro.
ever, bro.
Yeah.
Oh,
Jesus. It's, again, sorry for getting so mad, guys, but this movie is not fucking good. Okay, so I think it's time to get into how much of a slut that MJ is. Right? So, first instance, right? She's talking to Peter at, like, a fence. She was at her old house. I don't know why she was there. I guess whatever.
yeah.
But she was at her old house, walked into fence, was legit looking at him, and was like, "I want you to fuck me, Peter. I want you to fuck me." And he's like, "Oh boy, yeah, I do." And then for 2 seconds later, he's like, "Nah, I don't really feel like it." She's like, "Oh yeah, well, I'm getting married or something. I have a boyfriend now."
Yeah.
And it's like, what? It's like, okay. All right.
Yeah.
And then throughout the movie, she's with J. Jonah Jameson Jr., one of the worst names I've ever heard in my life. Feels so bad. I feel so bad for that man. Like, that poor guy gets thrown for a loop the whole movie. And you can tell he loves this chick, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's like, every time he looks at her, he's like, oh man, this is a chick I want to be with the rest of my life. And then they make out because she does that super creepy kiss with him.
Yeah,
Of, like, the Spider-Man thing.
yeah, I'm watching this movie and sometimes I'll like get a flash of what's gonna happen next. I'm like, oh, here it comes.
Yep.
And then she's like, yeah, nah. You're not the one for me.
And, oh my
like, bro,
god.
come
Like, dude,
on.
if that happened to me, if that happened to me, bro, I think I'd kill myself. Like, that's just awful. It's like the fact that, like, he's like, oh my god, I'm on the moon again. Are you there with me? And she just stares.
She's
off
like,
into
yeah,
the
again,
abyss.
nah.
It's
I
like,
mean,
oh no.
and then the next day she's like, goes to, I don't know, cafe with Peter. She's like, oh, you're surprised? Now kiss me.
Uh-huh.
I'm like,
yeah!
what the
Like, what?
fuck?
You're engaged, woman. What's wrong with you?
Yeah,
It's
and-
like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and like we said this while we were watching the movie, like Peter's not the creepy one in this one. It's MJ.
Yeah, yes, seriously.
Oh,
Like, they flip-flop. Like, Peter was a creep in the first one, now she's the creep.
yeah.
It's just like, what?
It
Oh, God.
the way they write these characters just
So bad.
yeah.
So bad. And, okay, the worst part. So, I'm gonna get into something. I'm gonna rant about this, because this pisses me off.
All right.
Imagine, right?
Mhm.
I'll set the scene. Imagine, you love this girl.
Uh-huh.
Like, you are so happy, you want to be with her the rest of your life. You can tell she's acting a little weird. She
Uh-huh,
almost had
yeah.
a near-death experience, obviously.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
she's still like, oh yeah, we're still gonna get married. We're still gonna go to the wedding. Even though you can see that something's a little bit wrong. But you're like, yeah, whatever. So, wedding day comes. You all get everything set up. She's off getting her stuff all good. She's getting all dressed up, looking nice. There's thousands of people there. Your dad, everyone in the fucking city's there, right? Sit up there. You look over when, like, Here Comes the Bride song starts playing. You smile. Then chick comes out and she hands you a note that just says, fuck you. And then you get left at the altar. That is horrible.
Yeah.
If anyone ever ever leave somebody at the altar, you are the biggest piece of shit known to man, okay?
Yeah.
That is so embarrassing. That is one of the worst things you could ever do. And again, I haven't been married. Thankfully, I have not experienced this. But I'm telling you, like, if I was up there and Karis is like, yeah, nap, sorry, bye, I'd be like, oh my god, I would be broken. So for something like that to happen to this poor dude who hasn't done anything, it's like, what? What?
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
And in the movie, they kind of just they play it off like, oh, it's fine. He's going to Peter now. She's going to Peter now. It's all fine.
Uh-huh.
Like she shows up in her full wedding dress, and he's like, "Oh boy, yeah."
Yeah.
It was like I kind of laughed during the scene because you see the priest. He's like closes the book. He's like, "All right, well,
Yeah.
we know where this is going."
Yeah. Again, it's funny, but it's so sad. It's like that's horrible. Like oh yeah.
If she was struggling with it so much, only to just run away at the end, then like. I don't know, push it off so you can think about it more, or just literally call it off so you don't like go through all of this just to run away.
Exactly, because again, like in the final battle, which I'm not even gonna call a battle because it didn't really fight that much. When she found out Peter was Spider-Man, he was holding up the thing, and he finally said, "Oh yeah, I do love you," and you could tell she's like, "Oh my god, yes, finally, we can be together," and like we don't know how much time passes since then, but it had to have been like at least a few days, I'd say. So it's like if she knows that she wants to be with him and she knows that he definitely wants to be with her, it's like why not call off the wedding? Like you know you don't want to be with this guy, but you wait till the wedding day comes, you get in your wedding dress, and you just leave. It's like, dude, call it off. Just call it off beforehand. Like, really? It's like, that's evil. She's worse than Doc Ock.
Honestly, she's the main villain of this story.
Yeah, seriously. Like, the whole time you were like, oh, well, please die. Please die.
Honestly. And, like, we get the title sequences. I'm like, she's got like, scribbled all over her face. I'm like, this is the one time she looks good in this entire movie. Yeah, but also, bringing up that like final battle, you kind of you reminded me that honestly she's not even there with Peter because he's Peter. She's with him because he's Spider-Man. Like this whole movie, she's trying to find out who Spider-Man is so she can be with Spider-Man, not who's actually under the mask. Yeah, because you can see that when she like does the upside down kiss with the son, the J. Jonah Jameson Jr. Like she's like, oh, this isn't Spider-Man. Like the whole like her whole character is her trying to find Spider-Man so she can like I don't know, marry Spider-Man. But it's like that's not what MJ's character is, and that's not how MJ should be. And it's really they really didn't do MJ very well in this whole series.
No, again, not even very well. They didn't do her good at all. Yeah. She is awful in all of these movies. I think this one is the worst of it, definitely. Yeah. Like the third one, I do know, like, she's not good, but there's a kind of a sort of reason why she's not good in that one. But in this one, there's no reason why she acts the way she does. She's just a slut. Yeah. And that's how she is. I'm sorry. Like, she is. It's like she gets with every guy and cheats on 2 of them. Yeah. So it's just like, way to go. Like, she cheated on Harry in the first one, and then she cheated on J. Jonah Jameson Jr. in this one. So.
Yeah. That also reminds me where Harry's like, I think it was the drunk scene where he's like yelling at Peter. He's like, you stole MJ from me. I'm like, well, no, not necessarily. She just left. Yeah. He didn't do much. She didn't even get him in the end.
Down. She kissed him. He didn't kiss her. So
yeah, that was his whole argument. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, MJ just sucks, bro. I hate her so much. She's so bad.
Yeah.
Because again, MJ and MCU would never do that. Gwen, it would never do that.
Right.
So it's just like, Jesus Christ, she's a horrible character. Like, I don't get how anybody can like her. Again, I will say that Kirsten Dunst, I don't know how to pronounce it. She does act well.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think she deserved better.
Yeah.
Because I don't hate the actress. The character is just so bad that
Yeah.
it's just like I can't. Every time I look at you, I'm just like, oh fuck, you're in this movie.
Honestly.
So, it sucks.
Yeah.
All right, so I think that's enough MJ slander for today. All right, so I'll get into Spider-Man just in general, like Peter Parker, because we didn't really dive into Peter Parker really. So Peter Parker in this movie, his life is awful. His life sucks. He can't do anything. He's failing school. He's losing jobs.
Yep.
Not good. Not good life. Again, the message in this movie is awful because he sucks. But the worst part I think about, like, just in general, is that this is a Peter Parker movie, like I said earlier.
Yeah.
Is because they just focus so much on Peter Parker. And again, I get it. He is Spider-Man, so obviously.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, he's not Spider-Man for a pretty giant chunk of this movie. Like, he shows up, Spider-Man is in there occasionally, but it's just like, there's a big chunk where he Spider-Man no more as himself and loses his powers for being depressed, I guess. So
yeah, that's also
whole
something
thing is
that's
dumb.
really confusing, is how he loses his powers, because throughout the movie his power loss is very inconsistent. Like, he'll be swinging one moment and then the next he's like, oh shit, I don't have any more webs, and he falls down, somehow doesn't die. And and then again in the bank scene, he loses his powers for a minute, and then he gets them right back, which is really, it's really confusing. It's not explained why or how he's losing his powers. Like, it shouldn't be his emotions, because that's not how he got them in the first place, and that's not how he controlled them. Like, he was bit by a spider who gave him these powers. Like, it literally changed his physique overnight. Like, he got got jacked overnight, and then his eyesight changed. How does that how does that connect at all to his emotions? Like, if you just are happy, your eyesight's better? No, that's not how that works.
Dude, I wish that was how it works.
Right, so I think they tried to do something, but it just didn't make sense. If they explained why it was happening instead of trying to make us think about what's happening, I think it would have gone over much better. But instead of just leaving it, they left it out in the open for you to decide, how is this happening? Why is it happening? And it's implied that it's his emotions, but again, they don't say that. And if it was his emotions, it wouldn't be like off and on. Like, it wouldn't be like one moment he can do this and the next he can't. Like, if it was him getting so upset and depressed over his whole life, it would have just been like a gradual decline of his powers, if that's how they... Like, if it was his emotions. But instead, again, it's off and on, and it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, because they didn't explain it. Because, like you said, like, in the bank scene, it's like, was he depressed fighting Doc Ock?
Yeah.
Is that why his webs just went away and then instantly came back the next 2 seconds later? It's like, that's dumb. That don't make no sense. And earlier, too, when you were saying when he was fighting him and Aunt May was doing a lot better than he was.
Exactly, yeah.
It's like, I think they're trying to portray that, like, oh yeah, he's weaker because he's losing his powers, but they don't say that, because, again, one scene he's swinging along, 2 seconds later he loses his powers, 5 seconds later they're back.
Yeah.
So it's like they should have said, like, oh yeah, he's losing his powers, but gradually, like, as he fights, he's getting weaker, he has less webs.
Yeah.
They should have done something like that, but they didn't, so it just seems very inconsistent with his power loss the whole time.
Yeah, and...
which is not good.
Also, the scene where he literally just falls out of the fucking sky, and, he's trying to figure out why. Like, his webs aren't working, but he can still climb up a wall, and he's still basically indestructible. Like, what? That doesn't make sense. Like, if
Hmm.
he's gonna lose some of his power, it doesn't like make him lose all of his
Yeah.
powers. Like he
Yeah,
can't, you
exactly.
can't just pick and choose what powers he loses, because then again, it
Hmm.
just that even makes it more confusing.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
like
Like,
again,
cause
what's happening? Why is only one of his
yeah.
powers going away, and not all
Hmm.
of them? And then you
Yeah.
see, see him take the elevator. Like
Yeah.
what?
Like that was funny,
Yeah,
but that's the thing. It's like it's choosing humor over consistency.
yeah.
So it's just odd. What else? I was gonna say something else. So like the web thing is weird because I remember when he what was it like? I think it was after Aunt May told him like, "Oh yeah, we need Spider-Man back," and
Hmm.
then he went to go like swing his web from the top of that building for some reason instead of like being like, oh, number one, it's like how'd you get up that building? Like
Yeah,
it's like I'm assuming you took the elevator, but if you really wanted to test if your powers were back, try climbing it. If that didn't
yeah,
work, then you don't have your freaking powers back. So it's like, dude, don't try to jump from the roof because you're probably gonna die. And again, if Spider-Man lost his powers at this point, there is no way he could have survived that fall. Like
yeah,
he would have broken every even if he lived, he would have broken every bone in his body.
yeah.
So
Like he
it's
literally
like
fell out of the sky, caught a clothes hanger, and then
mhm,
clothesline. I mean, and then slammed into a building, fell down, hit a car, hit another car.
mhm.
Like how you're
Yeah.
dead. Like you can't survive that. And you're right. Like instead of going to the top first, test out your other powers that you know you should have, and that would be a key indicator whether you have
Mhm.
them back or not. And also maybe
Mhm.
test your powers before running and jumping off a fucking building. Like you don't have
Yeah.
to run and jump to test your webs. You can literally just shoot it. You don't have to
Yep.
put yourself in a
Yep.
situation where if it doesn't work, you'll fucking die.
Yeah, because like he was in his room in the first movie just shooting it at Dr. Pepper's, so it's like, bro,
Yeah,
just do that.
exactly.
It's just very weird. And something that again, this movie I feel should not have gone into the Spider-Man No More thing yet. I feel like again, like this definitely should have been longer than a trilogy to
Yeah.
explain more things. So if they were going and they were planning on making a Spider-Man 4,
Hmm.
so I can see that like okay, maybe save it for 3 or 4, not the second one. Like the second one you can go into dealing with all the emotional stress that he has to go through of being Spider-Man now and having to deal with his social life. But don't have him lose his powers yet because this is only the second movie. So if he's like not Spider-Man for the movie, then it's kind of like, dude, this is only the second time we're seeing it, and you've already lost your powers. Like,
Yeah.
really? So it's just like, of course, I have to bring it back to Moon Knight because that sucks. But Moon Knight, a big problem I had with that is that Moon Knight was like a cameo in his own show. Like they
Yeah.
focused on everything else but the Moon Knight himself. And again, I'm not. For me, I mean, it might sound like we're just being like, oh yeah, I only want action. I only want to see them fighting all the time. Like,
Yeah.
no, I don't. I want a good story.
Yeah.
Um, so for this is not a good story, but since it's a superhero movie, you also expect action. So
Hmm.
it's like, duh. But in this movie, they only give us like a few good action scenes, and by a few, I mean like only one, really, which is the
Yeah.
train one. And if he's not Spider-Man, then it's kind of like I feel bad, but it's like I don't really care because like I don't like Peter Parker's life sucks, but it's also like, dude, this is kind of like just tell people, like it kind of it's like duh, just tell them like MJ already gets in danger anyway, so just tell her.
Yeah.
And it's different in like the comics when there's like millions of bad guys around.
Yeah.
But like in this one, he was saying like, "Oh yeah, if my enemies ever found out, it's like what, like that robber
Yeah.
down
Like
the street.
yeah, like
It's like you have no enemies."
like we were watching, I'm thinking like what enemies? Like you don't have enemies.
Yeah.
You killed Green Goblin
No.
and then Doc Ock hasn't even shown
Mm.
up yet. Like, honestly, what the fuck?
No.
And then going back to
Hmm.
what you said, like, they could have saved it for another movie, I 100% agree. Because they could have definitely
Yeah.
shown the struggle without him losing his powers. And, it would have been a much better movie. And then to see it in a later movie, they could have done it, like, like way different than it just being his emotions. And like if
Yeah.
they had saved it for a later date, like, oh, maybe Venom took his powers with him, I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like that would have been really cool.
Yeah, but instead they did it in this movie, and then obviously it didn't do too well.
It's
So
just like, oh, I'm depressed. I'm depressed.
yeah.
It's like, shut up, bro. Like, that's stupid. Oh yeah, me being depressed makes me blind. Way to go. I hate it, dude. Cause like again, like they could have done it with like a Venom situation where like
Yeah.
he's losing his powers. He doesn't know why, and then he gets the Venom symbiote and he gets his powers back, and he gets so drunk on having his powers back that he's an asshole.
Yeah.
And then like once he gets the Venom taken away, he has to learn to become Spider-Man again, and maybe that's how he can get his powers back or something like that.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how he'd lose his powers. I'm not like I don't know. I'm not gonna write the story,
Yeah.
but it's just like they'd have to write a new way of how he lost his powers and get them back. Like I think that would be more interesting. But no, it's just like, oh, boo-hoo, life suck, no more Spider-Man. So
Yeah.
it's just very weird.
Definitely.
So, yeah. And going to another character, we delved into it a little bit, but Aunt May. Aunt May
Yep.
is very bad in this movie. Worst advice imaginable. And when Peter told her like, "Oh yeah, I basically killed Uncle Ben," like you'd think that like Aunt May wouldn't just get up and walk away.
Yeah, like
Just
the next
being
scene
like,
later, he brings it up and he's like,
yeah.
she's like, oh, pish posh. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
That no,
Water under the
you're literally
bridge. It's
crying
like, what?
about how you miss him, and like, what? You can't just brush it off in the next scene because
No.
it doesn't.
Nope.
It's not. They just like Aunt May's emotions in this one doesn't make sense. Like, she
No.
falls asleep at the party. She wakes up. Peter's like, "Oh, I found the rent or whatever, like the rent notice," and she's
Oh, yeah,
like,
that-
"Oh, it's just
yeah.
money." And then she's like, 2 seconds later, take this 20. Starts crying, like, "Oh, you better not leave it here." I'm like, okay, well, why? Like,
Yeah.
you just
Like I get what she's trying to do, but bro,
Yeah.
it's $20.
and then she just starts crying about it. Like there was nothing to.
Mhm.
There's nothing said to just make her start crying. And it just seems
Yeah.
so out of the blue. Like, what?
Mhm.
And then, like, she's somehow stronger than Peter is. Like,
yeah.
come on. Like, she, like,
And you'd
kicks
think
the
she'd
teller.
hate Peter too. Yeah.
Yeah, she kicks the teller. The teller limps away. And then she smacks his hands
was funny.
like, it's so funny.
Like,
Yeah.
bro, really?
Gets smacked
Chick
by
is
an old
legit
lady.
on death's door. She's 198 years old. She cannot be that strong, okay?
Yeah.
Oh god. But yeah, like again, Peter leaves her at the bank. And again, obviously he became Spider-Man to save her, but she
Yeah.
doesn't know that. So I'd be like, "Yo, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Why'd you
That's
leave me
that's
like
like
that?"
her most reasonable scene in this whole movie. She's
Yeah.
like, "No, don't leave me," and he's like, "See ya."
Uh-huh.
But
Yeah. So it's like I'd be pissed at him after that, but she's just like, "Oh yeah, whatever, to each its own." I'd be like, "No, dude, what?"
yeah, like Peter literally leaves, and then 2 seconds later, she smacks the teller for taking a coin. I'm like, bro, what the fuck?
Yeah.
She just doesn't care
Where are your
anymore.
priorities at, bro? This is so whack.
Yeah.
So yeah. So basically, all the characters in this movie are bad.
Yep.
None of them are good.
Yep.
And it sucks because my earbud almost fell out. The actors are trying, which really makes me sad.
Yeah.
Is that I can tell that they're trying. The worst one in this movie, I'd have to say, is definitely James Franco. Like, he sucks in
Yeah.
this movie, which is weird, because he is a good actor.
Mhm.
So it's just when he's like, oh, I have nothing left except Spider-Man.
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck is that? Like,
I definitely think
Sam Raimi wasn't like, hey, do that again.
I definitely think that both Sam Raimi and James Franco are out of their element with this, because Sam Raimi's like
Yeah.
big horror director and everything, and then
Yeah.
in James Franco's other roles, he's like way different than this. So
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I think that could just play. That's how. I think that's why the movies aren't doing so well, is because
Yeah.
the director and some of the cast is just out of their element.
Yeah,
So
and for like the what is it? The horror. Like I completely forgot about the scene where Doc Ock like arms like killed all those people in the hospital.
yeah,
Like that was also really good. I forgot to mention that.
Yeah.
That was really cool. And do you know why? Because it was like a horror scene.
Yeah,
And do you know what
and-
Sam Raimi's good at?
horror. Like, yeah, I can see like watching the movie. I see like the horror elements sprinkled in. I think
Mm-hmm.
like most of the screaming part, like I can tell that's part of the horror aspect, but with all the screaming, it just gets kind of annoying at some point.
Yeah, yeah. Like every chick was screaming. It's
Yeah.
like, Jesus, shut the fuck up.
Honestly, but again, some of the horror elements work. Like again, Doc Ock with all the doctors around him trying to save him, and then he just absolutely kills all of them. That worked out
Yeah.
well. I think he's just
Mhm.
putting horror into. He's trying to put horror into all the scenes where they don't belong,
Yeah.
and then when it's not a horror scene, he can't get it right. So
Yeah.
I feel like if they had brought
This is
someone
true.
else to write it and direct it, I think it would have been much better.
Yeah, which again is weird because Sam Raimi, great director.
Yeah.
I love the Evil Dead movies.
Mhm.
Those are really good. And I've seen a few of his other ones. I can't remember like the name of them obviously,
Mhm.
but like I've seen really good horror movies from the guy. And it's just like these feel completely out of his element.
Yeah.
Like you said. Like he is not like a comedy superhero director kind of guy. He
Right.
is a horror director. So when you see like that horror scene, that was really good.
Mhm.
And then when it's like just the characters talking, it's like I don't care. This is bad dialogue. I don't care about these characters because the way that they're acting is so makes me want to punch them right in the face. So it's like I don't care about these guys. And so when he's trying to be like a lot of people go back and be like, oh, these movies are too campy. And I have to agree to a degree
Mhm.
because it's like, yeah, these are funny. Like, again, watching these, they're funny. The first one I can watch a bunch of times because it's hilarious. Story not good, but it's a comedy.
Yeah.
This one is also really funny, but it's not something that I want to watch because just the faults in it are just too much to me because the director doesn't really understand it yet. And again, early 2000s,
Mhm.
no one had perfected the style yet,
Yeah.
but it just pisses me off because everyone to this day, not everyone, but there's a lot of people who are like, no, this is the greatest one yet. And I bet you, like, the moment I publish this video, someone's going to comment down who hasn't even watched it yet and be like, oh my god, this is like one of my favorite comic book movies of all time. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
And it's like, again, I'm not saying that you're wrong for thinking that, but I'm saying that go find other superhero movies. Like, when was the last time you actually sat down and watched this one?
Yeah.
And if you said like, oh yeah, I watched it yesterday, it was still my favorite, I'd be like, all right, that's kind of weird, but you do you, man.
Yeah, like we
Cool.
said
I
last
don't agree
time.
with you whatsoever, but whatever.
Yeah, like we said last
But
time.
it's
Like we're not trying to say that your opinion's wrong, but just don't go
yeah,
fight us without, backing up with the facts and stuff.
yeah, exactly. And not like because again, Back to the Future, like we said, my favorite movie.
Mhm.
Anyone can fight with it, and I'll be like, yep, I understand.
Yeah.
So whatever. So it's like that we're fighting in the fact that we don't like this movie.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, you really can't change people's minds on things that like they like and dislike. Really.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can, but for the most part, you can't. And so it's just weird. So I know that there's gonna be people trying to like defend the movie. And it's like, okay, I understand where you're coming from, but I just can't see past where you can see past.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, this isn't for me, and I know this isn't for you either. So it's just
Mhm.
like, you can't convince us, and we're not trying to convince you.
Right.
We're not trying to be like, oh yeah, you should hate this movie now. It's just like, this is generally not a good movie, and all the people calling this the greatest comic book movie of all time, it's just no.
Yeah.
You need to watch other ones. I'd have to say, like, again,
Yeah.
it's like that's a very bold claim to make, and one that personally I think is just wrong. So,
Yeah. Like
so
I watch a lot of shows, and then like I love them so much, but I can also see how how what doesn't work and what does. So I can look back
Mhm.
on it and I'm like, oh yeah, that wasn't the best, but I still love it.
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
and then back to uh, Sam Raimi. I think he did direct Doctor Strange, right? The newest one.
The second one. Yeah.
Yeah, he did a lot. He did a really good job with that. Like I think he could put his element more to use in this one, in
Mhm.
Multiverse of Madness, because it's all about. I feel it's more horror based than other movies. So
Yeah.
he really did good with that, but
Mhm.
with this, I don't think he really couldn't find it in this one.
Yeah. And again, not a personal attack on Sam Raimi.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah,
like I
yeah,
wish we could see better from him.
yeah.
And again, for me, I did not like Multiverse of Madness. I didn't think it was a good movie.
Mm.
But the horror scenes in it were amazing.
Yeah,
So it's just like, yeah, dude. Like if it was all like this, I feel like the movie would have been fantastic.
hmm
So it's just so weird where I'm like, oh, it feels like in this one I can't tell if it was like a restriction from like Sony being like, hey, don't
mm.
do that. But I know for a fact Multiverse of Madness, it really felt like they were restricting him.
Yeah,
But in this one, it's kind of like I can't really tell. I honestly think that it's probably just because he didn't understand superhero stuff yet, because the only good superhero movie really for Marvel was his first movie, so
yeah.
it's just like he didn't really understand it yet. So
Yeah, and again,
I don't know.
we're at the learning curve for most live action
Yeah.
Marvel movies. So
Mm.
from here, I think we go to what, Iron Man next, and like
Uh,
how far in the future is that? Like how, when was that made
only
again?
like 4 years. Four
Yeah,
years later after this one. So.
yeah. Oh, yeah, at the beginning of the
um.
movie, like we're looking at the credits, and we didn't even know Kevin Feige was a part of this one.
Yeah, that was kind of funny. It's like, oh shit, really? Like he was like executive producer. It's like, huh, that's weird. So
Yeah,
he's been in it since the beginning, I guess.
yeah, and
That was cool.
yeah, and you can definitely see his experience with it in the future. So
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
being
He's probably
back
like,
here,
okay,
I
what
guess,
didn't
paid
work
off.
in this one?
Yeah.
Yeah. What else? Oh, I had something. Oh no, don't leave my head. What was it? Crap. Oh. Okay. So, in this movie came out in 2004. Batman Begins came out in 2005.
Mm,
Those are very different movies.
yeah,
And that's the first thing I can think of that is a better superhero movie than this one.
yeah,
Which, again, came out 1 year after this one. So, it's not like. It's just so weird. I don't understand why people think this is the greatest one. Like, just in general. Because when you say comic book movie, you mean like every comic book movie, like
yeah,
DC included. So it's just like, bro, legit 1 year later, there was one that was better. So I just think it's so weird. It's like, what, did you guys just watch this and never watch a comic book movie ever again?
I guess so.
Yeah, like it's just so weird to me. Because especially the fact that watching this, it's like, this is not good. I don't like this.
Mhm.
So again, like, I really hate to be so negative on this movie, but it really is just like, I never want to watch this again.
Yeah,
Like, I really would never want to watch his movie. Like, I would rather watch X-Men over this.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
was
just
literally
like,
saying that earlier. Like, I would watch the first X-Men again over this. Like, again,
Yeah.
coming into this, I was more excited to watch Spider-Man than I am to watch X-Men.
yeah.
But
Hmm.
I was so disappointed that, like, again, I literally want to watch the first X-Men again over this, which
Yep.
it's sad because this started
Hmm.
off strong and then kind of just fell flat. And then, luckily, I know
Yep.
that the next Spider-Man 3 is much better than this one, in my
Yeah.
opinion. So,
Which apparently is a hot take, I guess. But like, no, it's just facts. It's just facts, guys.
so I am still looking forward to Spider-Man, but
Mhm.
it's sad to see that they kind of just flopped in the middle. And
Yeah.
hopefully, I think maybe it's a wake up call for them. Like,
I hope
oh, the
so.
first one did good, and then the second one, you can't just go to money grab right away.
Yeah. Hmm.
You actually have to put effort into it to keep a fan base.
Yeah.
So, especially like
Yeah.
Marvel, because that's a huge fan base.
Yep. Like, you can't mess up Spider-Man. And
No.
again, they did in this movie, but everyone liked it. So I don't get it. I really don't get it.
Yeah, and I think most people, I think this is more nostalgia heavy for
Yeah.
everyone.
That's something that I really think. Because, again, like I said like a couple minutes ago, it's like, did you guys just not watch any movies since?
Yeah.
So, again, if you're one of the people who thinks this is the greatest comic book movie of all time, I will say rewatch it. Like, rewatch it today,
Yeah.
and then watch like the first Avengers or watch Iron Man, or again, those are like very bare bones examples, but like,
Yeah.
or just watch Batman Begins, which came out the year after.
Yeah.
It's just like,
Like, definitely
So many
rewatch it
more.
again and then make your opinion.
hmm
Because I feel that that's how you can, make more educated opinions. Like,
yeah, exactly.
don't just go off what you think you remember, right?
Yeah. hmm
Go off
Yeah,
the
like, take off your
facts.
nostalgia goggles.
Yeah.
Like, try to watch it like without like, try not I'm not going to say like, hey, don't like watch it to like critique it or anything. I
Yeah.
never say something like that. But like, watch it and try to understand where other people come from with it. Like, I can understand why people would like this movie,
Mhm.
but to me it's just like, it really feels like it's something that like a little kid would really like.
Yeah. I
And
get that.
it's just, and again, that's not an insult to anybody. Like, please, I'm not insulting anybody. It's just like, it really feels like something that people would have liked when they were kids, and then older they'd be like, oh yeah, it's okay, but I remember
Yeah.
it better when I was a
It's
kid.
definitely an okay movie, but it's not the
Yeah.
greatest one of all time.
Yeah. And again, I know I said I hated this movie in the beginning, and I will say that like, I don't strongly hate this movie. It's just something I don't want to watch.
Yeah.
But there are many more worse ones out there.
Yes, there definitely is.
And unfortunately, next week we're gonna watch an even worse one. So
Oh boy, I'm so
that's
excited.
something. Yeah. So I think, unless you have anything else to say about this movie,
I've used up all my points.
cool. All right. So yeah, that's Spider-Man 2. What would you give this one out of 10?
I've been thinking about it since we started recording this one.
Mhm.
Honestly, I'm gonna have to say it's a 4 because I get that they have the plot points in there that makes Peter Parker in this movie. And again, like I said earlier, it feels like a rough draft of the movie. And I also have to put in the fact that I can't remember most of the movie, even though, like, we just watched it, which is, it's really sad. So I'm definitely going to give it a 4, because it's way down below Spider-Man, the first one. And even though X-Men didn't have really a storyline, at least they, I could remember that one, so they made it memorable. But really, with this one, it's just not the best for me, so I have to put it lower. So
I get that. Yep. I'll give this like a 3 out of
Mm.
10. So, pretty much I have the same points as you. I just
Yeah.
want better. Like, I just want better.
Yeah.
And it's just funny because like the Tom Holland, everyone's like, oh no, he sucks compared to Tobey Maguire, and it's just like, well, at least I liked all of his movies. So,
You have a point
fuck
there.
you. So, but yeah, so that was Spider-Man 2. Yeah, not the best. Next week we're gonna be getting into the third X-Men movie,
Hmm.
which is lots of times worse than this one. So
Yeah, well, I can say at least I'm a little excited to see it because it's a movie I haven't seen before. So I think we're getting into the
gotcha.
territory of I haven't seen it, so
Mhm.
I can make a fresh new opinion on it. So,
Yep. But just warning you, it sucks.
oh, okay.
But yeah, so anyways, thank you guys very much for watching these podcasts. We always have a lot of fun with them.
Yep.
So yeah, next week X-Men: The Last Stand, which is the last in the original X-Men trilogy, and not the last X-Men movie we'll talk about for a while, but the last like X-Men group that we'll see for a while, because from here on we're gonna get like a bunch of spin-offs about Wolverine and stuff, and prequels and stuff. So yeah, that's how we have for X-Men, and then we'll move on to Spider-Man 3, and then we'll finally get started with the actual MCU with Iron Man.
Yay!
Yeah, just keep tuning in every week. We're definitely gonna post these like pretty much every Wednesday, I think is a good point now.
Yep.
So yeah, every Wednesday we're gonna get a new Marvel movie podcast. So yeah, tune in next Wednesday for X-Men: The Last Stand. So yeah, thank you all so much for watching. See you later.
Bye bye.